Howdy, everybody. Bob Tallman for No Spin Rodeo. No politics, no BS, just hard-hitting news and rodeo commentary from two of the most trusted sources in our sport. Kendra Santos, Tommy Joe Lucia. Listen up. Here we go.
So I've got two ways to do this, fans. The first one would be to pretend like we didn't just have an absolute S show at the top of this show and had to start over for those of you that are podcasters and would never know. But since we're No Spin Rodeo, we just had a Titanic type technical wreck. And I'm going to preview this. This is not our normal show open. I'm going to preview this with we now have made some technical adjustments, but if this thing goes to heck again and the Titanic goes down, we're going to do this show on another day, but we're going to give it a shot. Hello, I'm Tommy Joe Lucia. Welcome to No Spin Rodeo, as if nothing happened before now. And joining me is First Lady of Pro Rodeo Journalism, Kendra Santos. And before we have technical difficulties, we're going to get right in to a guy that I never really know if he likes me, but I like him. Legendary West Coast producer, not necessarily just a stock contractor. We'll talk about that later. Representing the Flying U Rodeo Company, one of the most brilliant men in the business. He just is. Ladies and gentlemen, while we have him and can see him, Reno Rosser. Hello, Reno.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me.
We can hear him.
Yeah, Kendra, how about that?
We're rocking with bourbon right now, people.
Right.
Well, hello, Reno. Kendra is probably chomping at the bit because Kendra does not like when everything goes wrong, and neither do I. Kendra, I know you probably have way more background and good stuff to start this off with, Reno, than I do. I could reread all of the stuff that I Googled on the many stories you've written about the Rossers, and then you would call me a plagiarist. So at this time, I'm going to let you start this interview with Reno Rosser.
Well, this one's so personal to me. I think that I'm now 5 generations of my family knowing the Rossers. So I'm going to really date myself here, the old gray mare. June 22nd, 1974, I'm at Slack at Reno with my dad, who's roping cows and bulldogging. And at Slack, they announced Cotton has a brand new baby boy, and they named him Reno. I believe you were born at about like 1:30 in the morning or something that morning, maybe? Does that seem about?
Do you remember, Reno?
Is that how the story goes?
First saw the light?
No, but I heard stories. I think it could have been about that time because if I remember correctly, my dad, when they called him, of course, that was before cell phones, and they called him to let him know that they had just had a performance, and he was up having cocktails with the Reno president, and they said, "Hey, your wife just had a baby," and he had been drinking, and so he said, "Well, shit, I guess I better get over the hill and fly to Marysville." So he went to the airport and sucked on oxygen a little bit just to sober up, because apparently that'll sober you up. And so he flew, 45 minutes over the hill back to Marysville, and yeah, ta-da, there it was.
It's as good as it gets. And there's a picture that's one of the most heart-wrenching, coolest rodeo pictures I've ever seen. Fernando Sampson took it 48 years later. The fact that your dad died on your 48th birthday on June 22nd, 2022, and the fact that on that night you are your father's son, because you saddled up like this is, what do they call him? The P.T. Barnum of professional rodeo, right? And right. You learn from the best. You saddled up, you led his best horse, Rodney, in. The crowd went wild. The show went on, and Cotton Rosser smiled from heaven. I mean, it was just as good as it gets. Um, I think that a lot of people who maybe haven't known you all as long as I have, which is, I've known you guys since I remember knowing anything. I think people would be interested to know that your dad has 5 kids,
Hmm.
right? Okay.
Yep.
So with Linda, he had Lee, Cindy, and Brian.
Correct.
Your mom's name is Joanne,
Correct.
and Karen and Cotton had Catherine.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, Reno is the wildest, richest rodeo in the West. What are the words you would use to describe being your dad's son?
Well, I thought you were going to say Reno is the wildest of the 5 kids, which that was true. But yeah, I was definitely the black sheep of the family for most of my life until my dad figured out I was the only one dumb enough to stay in this business. Um, but yeah, and then I grew up. But what? So what? Your question was, what was it like to be Cotton's son? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, I mean, it seems, I'm guessing it was not boring.
Oh, no, no, no. It was not boring. And I think Tommy Joe was raised similarly. You never tell your dad no. And you're expected to do everything. I think the only event that I haven't done in rodeo is barrel racing and tie down roping. But I've done everything else. Rode bull chariots, fought bulls for 18 years, picked up, steer wrestled, rode broncs, fought, just and rolled wagons. I mean, you just didn't tell him no. And I competed professionally for a few years. I thought I was going to ride broncs professionally until I was going up against another bronc rider named Cody Wright and Cody DeMoss at Denver, and I thought I just have zero chance at this. And my dad was getting older and I needed to come home and somebody needed to help him. I think at that time he was 75 or damn near 80, and somebody needed to help. And I thought, if we're going to continue this on, it's too hard to be a contestant. I think the last year I was competing, I was at a rodeo and I'd be backing in the box in the steer wrestling and looking over at the bucking chutes to make sure they were loading the broncs. It's just it's too tough to produce a rodeo and competed in it as well. So it was a great childhood. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. And yeah, I hope that I can raise my children the same way that my dad raised me.
Well, the all around, being an all around cowboy is also, following right on his footsteps. And I don't know, I think it would be interesting. He, of course, was a, big time star for Cal Poly, and he loved nothing too much more than besides his family than Cal Poly. And I feel like he told me that the 2 most important things he learned when he was there was to fly a plane and read off of his hand or something like that.
And learn to ride on his hand. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Um,
even did that at Cal Poly. You had to pass, right?
the Rossi tradition at Cal Poly is unmatched. But the all around, he was an extraordinary all around champion until, was it an auger or something? It was a ranch accident, like ended his career. Tried to take a leg off of him, right?
That's correct. A lot of people forget that Cotton worked every event in rodeo. Um, and he actually gathered the last of the cattle off Catalina Island, which I didn't know until I ran off and got married there. And he took the money that he got from that contract, came here to Marysville with Linda, built this ranch, and as he was building the ranch, he stubbornly had an auger jam up, and he went and jumped up and down on it. At the time, he was extremely successful. I mean, traveling with Casey Tibbs and everybody, really kicking ass. And the auger got him. They said he'd never walk again. He'd be wheelchair bound. Back then, cowboys didn't have insurance. Ben Johnson, Casey Tibbs, and several other well-known rodeo people came here and produced a rodeo right here in Marysville for Cotton to help him pay his hospital bills. And he took that money and bought a Western store, which is Cotton's Cowboy Corral, which is now the oldest ongoing Western store in the state of California. Anyways, and at that time, the Western, before there was Boot Barns, Walmarts, and Amazon, the Western store was kicking ass. So he went and bought a rodeo company with Dick Pasco. So full circle here with the Pasco family. So yeah, that's kind of it.
Well, was it called Golden State Rodeos at first? Or
That's when Lex Conley was involved.
okay,
Smartest man ever in rodeo. Yep. Yep.
he was
Absolutely.
brilliant and a very good
Brilliant.
man.
Very
Yes,
good. Very good. Yep.
yes, for sure. Okay, so your dad's showmanship was absolutely legendary. Talk about that. I mean, did he instill that in you, or it just come in your blood?
No, you figure it out when you see his shows. It's all about the crowd. He was never, and I'm sure you guys all know this. He was never a contestant favorite because he was about the crowd first and foremost. He
Ooh. Watch
yeah.
out. That lady in the other box there, she has stilettos.
Well,
She,
no,
No.
she will
I
get
grew
you.
up, I grew up going to Cotton's rodeos, and I mean, he was out there every single time, up and down those chutes. Let's go, boys.
right.
Like keeping it rolling. And I mean, good for him.
Yeah,
Whether
yeah,
they liked it or not, the show, it had to be a show. If you want
yeah.
more added money, you needed the show to succeed. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. If you don't have a crowd, you're not going to have sponsors, and if you don't have sponsors, you don't have a rodeo. So yeah, no, we learned that very quickly that it was about a show. It was a sport, but we really emphasized on the show and how we can keep it changing every year and try to keep and Tommy's good at this, keep coming up with innovation and we're in a tough market out here. We're not in San Angelo, Texas. We're not in Utah. Uh, there's so many entertainment options in California. You got to persuade people. Why do I want to turn down Disneyland and all the things to do out here, the beach and this and everything? Why would I want to go to a rodeo? And so it's very challenging for us. Utah, you can go put an arena in the middle of the desert and you'll get 5,000 people. That's not the case in California. It takes a
Well,
lot more work. Yeah.
I understand that. And going say with Oak to like country rodeos in Oklahoma and stuff. I mean, that place is going to be packed. They did zero advertising. Everybody comes there. They bring, a picnic lunch with them, and it's an annual. It's so beautiful. Those rodeos are going to be there forever without all the work. I don't think people understand the external pressures. I mean, I guess we can just go ahead and say it. I mean, rodeo has come under some very, very heavy fire, um, in, for example, Los Angeles, and you were on the front lines, weren't you?
We are. We are the dam that's holding all the water back. And if this dam breaks, all hell's going to break loose throughout the country. And a lot of people don't realize that. Uh, and we have to fight so hard. I mean, I just got an email here from Reno Rodeo about a humane issue. Uh, but yeah, legislatively, we're doing a pretty good job out here. We participate in Ag Day. We knock on doors at the Capitol. We have a lot of good people fighting the battle down south in LA and in San Diego. But what worries us about LA and San Diego, as I've told a lot of people, if it passes in those two cities, the next city that it goes to will be the end, and that'll be Sacramento. So we're really trying to do a great job of getting the story out. Obviously, Western culture's through the roof right now. Kendra, I told you at that meeting 3 years ago in Fort Worth, we have the Taylor Sheridan effect, and look where we're at right now. Rodeos at levels that we've never thought I wish Cotton was alive to see it, because I honestly think that Cotton never thought rodeo would be where it is today. Just in the last 3 years, it's growing tremendously. But yes, we do fight the battle, and a lot of people don't understand the battle that we're fighting. We had some issues at Reno the other day. We're not doing these things and coming up with rules to try to hurt rodeo. We're doing these to try to save rodeo, because with the flick of the switch, we could lose it all.
Well, what I think too is being a native with you here. Um, for one thing, so rodeo's roots are very, very deep in the state of California. So for the people, who don't care about that, eh, I think it's really important, to your point, if all hell breaks loose in California, for those people who are like, hell with them, I hope it falls off in the ocean. Um, Wrong answer, because cities include Houston, San
Mm-hmm.
Antonio, I mean, just go right on down the line. If you don't think that Calgary doesn't have problems, you're a fool.
Yeah.
So we got to hold the line. And incidentally, the meeting that you pulled together, Taylor Sheridan himself attended, which, says a lot about you and your army of people that you've recruited, to this situation. But people taking pot shots, at California or whatever, that's just foolish, for the entire sport. And nobody wants this sport to thrive more than we do. But this is a big battleground, and it's vitally important to win in order for the entire country and world to prosper in our sport.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that will say Reno and Flying U Rodeo, they hate calf roping. I don't hate calf roping. I want to protect it, but it's really hard for me to protect it with some of the things that we see at rodeos day in and day out. We're trying to protect it. Hey, listen, there's nothing more than I love more than watching Fred and Cody battle it out at Thomas and Mack. That's some of my greatest memories of the NFR. I love calf roping, but we're finally at a point in California. It's a moral issue, and you could have the greatest calf roping announcer in the world, Justin McKee, explain it to a crowd, and they just don't like seeing a baby animal getting jerked over. And I know, Kendra,
Go ahead.
you and I have spent hours, I know, Kendra, talking about this. We don't want to get rid of calf roping. We just want it to evolve. And if we don't involve with our customer or clean our house, somebody else will clean it for us. And we don't want to do that.
I think that it's really important that everybody stick together. If people think that this is some sort of a new issue, here's the deal. The issues that can be a problem in, California or maybe Calgary or, urban areas, this is nothing new.
Yeah.
When I was a little kid at San Francisco's Cow Palace and all the Wolves are there, it's the playoffs to the NFR and every top 15 guy is there. The calf roping was held at 11 p.m. after the rodeo, folks. This was in the 1970s, okay? So it's not like this is a brand new issue. And we do all need to work together, but we better not just be people just hating on each other and digging their heels in, because it's not the same here as it is in rural Kansas or Oklahoma. Those crowds there, it's so different. But those people still know that eggs don't come from the grocery store. They come from a chicken.
Correct.
So anyway, let's talk Reno Rodeo because you just left the 106th. How many years was this for the Rosser family in Reno?
69 years. Next year will be 70. Yeah.
The loyalty and the bond. I mean, that's like a lifetime.
It is. Yeah. I haven't been there for all of them, but quite a few of them. And as I told somebody the other day, when Cotton started there, it was wooden bucking shoots, and it was a 2-day rodeo. So to see that rodeo, and it wasn't just Cotton, the committee, the volunteers, it takes 1,000 volunteers, the community, at what point, did they stop? Why'd they stop at 10? I really think Reno could probably go 15 days. They sold out all of their performances, and not only are they selling out the performances, you have 12 to 13,000 people in the crowd, but there's also another 3,000 people out at the Jack Tent, the Cougar Cantina. The whole place is flooded. So it's we're very proud to be a part of that event, and we feel like we're part of the reason of the success, but it takes a whole team. And the Reno Rodeo has a great group of people. We have a new boss every year, which is always kind of a challenge, that wants to do something different and make their mark. But anyways, we've learned how to manage that. But wow, what a great rodeo! We had a great rodeo, great weather. Few little incidents, but other than that, it was phenomenal.
The sunsets at Reno are second to none.
Oh, yeah, they're pretty hard to beat, aren't they? Yeah, it's something else.
You can't. It's just not possible. So how would you say, when it comes to producing a rodeo, how are you the same and how are you different from your dad?
Oh boy. Yeah, so he's more out front. I'm more of a Tommy Joe behind the scenes kind of guy. And not that Cotton ever wanted the attention. That's just how he was. So a lot of things that you see happening around there are happening behind the scenes. A lot of the groundwork that goes into the production before the rodeo, the ideas, he's more out front where I'm probably going to stay a little behind. I don't, not that I don't care for the attention. I can get a lot more done if I'm not riding the rail. So, but him riding the rail all these years is also what made him an icon. So, in visiting with fans and letting every little girl touch his horse as he rides the rail. So that's how we're different.
For sure. And I mean, I'll never forget, very shortly before he left this world, him being horseback at Santa Maria. And there were a few people, you guys were a little worried, like, God, should he be out there, And I remember like talking to you or Cindy or something and saying, my golly, if he dies on his horse, would that not be the happiest thing that ever happened to him? He virtually did anyway, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
it was so great. Okay, so this is a little bit random. I'll go even more random. The other day would never have known. I saw a picture of you in the wild ride at Red Bluff.
Mm-hmm.
You had a gun. What were you dressed as?
I'm not sure. I was a guinea pig for that. The first year they did it, they got rid of the finals at Red Bluff, and at Red Bluff wanted to know how we could extend the Sunday show a little bit. And Cotton goes, well, why don't we just pay these guys to get on colts and dress up and let the crowd pick the winner? And because the crowd really doesn't have a say. And well, I guess unless you're playing the rodeo game with Casey Jones, but until that, the crowd really never had a say in our shows. And he goes, we'll just let the crowd pick the winner. They don't even have to make the whistle. And of course, the whole idea of getting on colts 20 years ago wasn't a terrible idea. You couldn't pay Brody Kress $1 million to get on a colt anymore, but we would run in 14 colts. And I mean, I think I was the only guy. The first year it was John Growney's nephew, and you had the Adams boys and Reno. And then next year, Jesus, I was the only guy in there that hadn't been to the NFR. You had Dan Mortensen, Glenn O'Neill, Cody Wright. And so, yeah, just every year we would come up with new and exciting ideas to try to get the crowd pretty excited. But I'm not sure what picture you're referring to, because I donated a lot of bumps and bruises to that event over the years.
I'll have to find it and send it to you, because somebody put it up and I put the comment, I see 3 guns, because you were sleeveless and you were muscle man. And then you had a gun in your hand, you're riding a bronc with a like a machine gun in your hand. Anyway, it was
45. Yeah, 45.
40. Okay. It was a little bit wild. Okay. Torino this year. I would love to know, because I haven't asked you yet, and I took a wild guess on Facebook. Stetson Wright won the short round on a paint bowl you call Logan's Legacy.
Yep.
Is he named for Buddy Goulden's late son, Logan Goulden?
100%. Logan got on that bull the day he was killed. It was the saddest story. It was a calf. Chris Bird and Buddy Goulden's son were out here riding bulls, and it was on Father's Day of all things, I think. And he left our ranch, and a car hit him on his motorcycle and killed him. That was the last bull he got on, so we named him Logan's Legacy. And the last 3 years he's went to the NFR, and the last 2 years they've won Reno on him. So that was pretty cool.
Oh my God, that's even more. Yep. Oh my God, because Buddy, for those who don't remember, very popular bull rider, and Logan's mom, Sherry, how broken-hearted they are, but Logan was riding his motorcycle home to make Father's Day dinner for Buddy when he was hit and killed by that car, and he was 23, I believe. So that's really cool. I mean, I think that's really cool for like Stetson Wright to know about the bull.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, that's very, very special. Anyway, okay. Well, I think bottom line, I don't know, Tommy Joe, if you want to, jump in with anything, we could go all evening easily. But ultimately, rodeo is all about relationships, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. We don't work for rodeo committees. We work for rodeo families. And, I was telling somebody the other day that I told them I was pretty wore out after 10 days in Reno, and they go, why are you wore out? And it's like, Well, every weekend we go to a new town, and Greg knows this from Santa Maria. It's their 1 week party, and so it kind of wears you out a little bit, right, Greg? I mean, Tina has you up in the booth every night, and it's the same thing. It's all about relationships and visiting with sponsors and visiting with the volunteers. You can't take that for granted that it'd be easy for me to go run off like Stetson Wright and go to bed. You can't do that. We need these volunteers. We want them to feel appreciated. And Man, it's a wonderful sport to be involved in. It's great, but it can be taxing at times.
It is true. There's nothing better than this sport, but if you weren't all in, you wouldn't keep rodeos for 69 years. So congratulations on that level
Yeah,
of commitment. So
we're trying. We're trying.
Is that my
Tommy,
turn, Kendra?
yes, please go ahead, get a word in edgewise. Sorry.
Okay, Reno. I've got a list of questions for you.
All right.
I think we are. I think we're more alike than we probably both realize. Um, so I'm going to ask some pointed questions because there's times on this podcast where I would love to have you as a co-host with my other host, so that the argument was a little more fair. But let me ask you this. So we both appreciate that we have to preserve tradition
Right.
because it's our Western legacy. However, if we don't push the needle and try new things and do new things, I don't think that we'll grow with our new demographics. I mean, my kids, that what they like is different than, and I'm even realizing this as a producer. First off, let me tell all you people, there are stock contractors and there are rodeo producers. There, these guys flying you are the only, and I'll get in trouble for this. You guys send me the text, but they're truly producers of rodeos. Okay, because producing a rodeo isn't just being a shoot boss. I love it because everybody thinks that you're a producer if you're a shoot boss, and everybody thinks it's the coolest thing if you can holler at a cowboy and tell him when to go.
Right.
And a monkey can produce the shoots if they're loaded correctly, and you're going by a load order, and guys are ready. But anyway, so don't get me started. So back to what my question was. How do you navigate, or how do we navigate preserving tradition and pushing the needle? Because you guys do motorcycle flips and stuff in your show, which I think is fantastically original and different, because it's a cultural clash, kinda, right? It's
Mhm.
not it's the last thing that you would expect at a rodeo. So talk a little bit about from your, because I know I run into this on this podcast and in real life. People questioning why I did stuff because that goes against what we've done for 45 years or 700 years or whatever the hell it is. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we have to evolve. I mean, Gladiator, what was that, 500 years ago? We're not still out fighting lions and tigers in the middle of a gladiator stadium. Um, I hated motorcycles, and we weren't the first ones to bring them to rodeo. Hell, Cowboy Kenny was doing it when he was a little kid in Oklahoma. What we did was we just made it more entertaining. Uh, um, at that time when I wanted to do motorcycles, we struggled for bull riders. At that time, the PBR had taken pretty much all of our power in the bull riding. It was really hard to sell our rodeos. So that is when we went and built our own ramps, hired our own motorcycle guys, because we knew at the end of the rodeo, you know, that was a sell. And I don't care how you do it. Reno, most nights we had a sell. I could end with Stetson Ride. I could end with Tristan Hutchins. And you could sell your rodeo at a high point because you want everybody leaving happy and excited. But that's why we brought in motorcycles. And yes, my dad hated it. But the one thing that I do, and my dad did for years, is I watch the crowd more than I watch the rodeo. And you can feel what they like and what they don't like. I might not like a noble fir Christmas trees, but if my customers like Douglas fir, I better start buying Douglas fir Christmas trees. I'm also in the Christmas business, by the way. Pardon the plug. Uh, but still, there are customers, right? We have customers, and we have to change, right, Tommy? I mean, I know you've struggled with it. You have tradition at Salt Lake, right? You have the I forget, the wagons and all that stuff. That's very appropriate. But there's no reason why at Salt Lake, and you continue to try to do it, to bring other avenues of entertainment, involve it into your show. So the great news, Tommy, is the rough stock riders. No, pardon the pun, or no, I'm not kicking the tiny bit guys to the curb. But God, we've got the greatest group of bull riders now.
Absolutely.
We've got so much rough stock talent.
We got bareback riders
God,
now. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
at Reno, I don't know that we even needed a specialty act. So it's interesting how we go through the even flows of the quality of contestants. But in our smaller rodeos, it's Santa Maria. Greg will tell you, nobody knows who Stetson Wright is. Nobody has a clue. Maybe Dustin Noblet's tent over there. A couple people in his tent might know who Duck, but nobody knows. They don't care. But they sure love the motorcycles at the end of the show. So,
Well, and the interesting thing to me is that, just like we've had this conversation, and now I get all this feedback on No Spin because Kendra and I got in an argument about ties in events, and I said, well, fans want to see a winner, right? Well, and and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's how you package the event. But I don't want to just talk rodeo because we could have way more fun while we have time, I think. So I've got an insider. He's my brother, who you guys are really close. I'm envious. Um, but he tells me that you now have decided you hate Texas because you finally went there. Is that a true statement?
oh no, 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 no. I go to Texas quite a bit. My best friend is Eddie Preifert, and so I visit Mount Pleasant quite a bit. In fact, I was just there the other day. We were working on some. I guess I could tell you, we're working on some innovative things that we're trying to help again with rodeo. We have horses that stall. And unfortunately, it's always usually the good ones. And we're coming up with a system that I've actually been experimenting with for about 5 years now. And now Prefert is installing air into the chutes to kind of help motivate the horses that do stall. And that way we can get rid of electrical prods. But yes, I love everything about Texas except your heat. I love your fuel prices, but your heat. I was in Glen Rose, Texas, and at 9 o'clock at night, I go out on the balcony in my hotel, and it's hot. Like, you guys don't cool off. I mean, holy cow! It's
And our lakes are not clear like they are where you are. See,
no, they're
because
muddy,
they're well, yeah, because we get massive rains and mud, and
right?
people eat catfish, and if you've eaten catfish, you're basically eating fish with
Yeah,
mud in it,
right,
right? I mean, that's what
right.
they do. Okay, well, I'm going to keep off the. I always go on left field and
That's all right.
so what? So Nicole, you're married to a lawyer.
Hmm.
You know, in a typical relationship, you get into debates.
Yeah.
I I get into debates. I'm not married to a lawyer. How often do you win an argument?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, my dad said if you're going to make it in the rodeo business, you either need to marry a banker or a lawyer, and so I chose lawyer.
Yes, sir. I'm on
But
it.
I've asked her if we move to Utah if I can marry both, because you really need both. But I love Utah, by the way. Uh, but Yeah, no, we don't argue a lot. She really stays in her lane. She will argue with me when I think I know the law better than she does. Uh, but uh, but we really don't argue. We have a wonderful relationship. She is not a cowgirl by any means, which is fine, right?
It's great. It's great. You
It's
can bounce
great.
ideas from a different
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah,
Yeah,
but she's got a
yeah.
lot of rodeo committees out of trouble. And she writes a lot of press releases for me when I get in trouble. So no, it's a wonderful marriage. So, and I never thought that I would actually pull off marrying a lawyer, but I did somehow. So
You probably don't play a game of Sudoku with her or very many board
no,
games, probably just to be
no,
safe, right? Yeah, that's a man
no,
thing. You don't
yeah.
want to try that. Yeah. Now, most of the people that listen to our podcast and those who haven't been, I mean, Reno and I grew up literally, well, and so did I think a lot of our families, but we grew up like literally, and so did Kendra in this business. Like, and so, but you're a prankster.
Mhm.
And those of you who know you're a prankster because when I went to Santa Maria, I was waiting and you steered clear of me, but I was waiting the whole time. Um, However, so I've got a question. In your long line of pranks, can you share with us your favorite?
Um,
Or if you can't share
wow.
your favorite, share a good one. But
Okay.
maybe you
Well,
can't share a
it'd
favorite.
be really hard to. I'll tell this one because Greg's on. Uh, there was a legendary rodeo announcer, and he's a dear friend of mine, and his name was Eddie Cutts, and he was announcing Santa Maria before it got brought back to its prominence that it is today. And he would run off during the mutton busting, and he would go have a beer, and which I didn't think was fair. I mean, I don't get to run off and have a beer. And and when he announced, he would throw his feet up on exactly where Greg's board is, and just announce the rodeo. Just kicked back, so it kind of pissed me off that he was drinking and I couldn't. And so one day, and Greg will tell you that Santa Maria is covered with sand, the hills, and there are a lot of red ants, not like Texas ants, but red ants. And so I put a Snickers bar out there, and it just got covered with red ants. So, um, anyways, Eddie ran out to go to get his beer during the mutton busting, and I ran up there and put that candy bar with about 1,000 red ants right where he puts his feet. And he uh, he comes up there and sure enough pops his feet up there and goes to announcing the calf roping, and all of a sudden you hear, "That son of a bitch! God damn it! What?" And he went to running out the announcer stand. Those ants went up his pant legs and were just biting the shit out of him. So, anyways, he didn't. The next two perps he didn't leave during the mutton busting. So that's probably Greg. There's your Santa Maria story. So
Well, I've got two more for you, and they're a little more serious
okay,
because Kendra wants me to be serious. I have a
okay,
hard time with that. Um, the Rosser, you have some of the best, and everybody knows I wouldn't say it if it wasn't the truth. You have some of the best livestock in the business with competing against a lot of money in big checkbooks, a lot of ground, a lot of this and a lot of that. It's fair, is it not fair? And would you expound on it that the breeding, like true breeding, what you guys have accomplished with the size of your ranch, with where you live, with all of the things, and you probably won't say this, but I'll say it for you. It's truly incredible the talent of livestock that you have. And when we talk about Cotton the producer, absolutely true. But he also understood the value of bloodlines and that the livestock is just as loved as the cowboys. Expand on the challenges of keeping up with the Joneses. I mean, there's some guys out there that owns livestock that got a lot, and I don't mean a little. I mean a lot of money. Now, they may like we just heard that there was this that Teton has having a dispersal sale so
we
that
didn't know that was coming.
yeah that maybe this is a little harder to make work.
Right.
So can you expand on
Absolutely.
how'd you pull that off? Because people don't realize you guys are doing something that most people couldn't do.
Absolutely. What we're most proud of, and again, I can't take all the credit for it. My sister Cindy and Cotton, I mean, they started the breeding long before. I mean, well, granted, Cindy was a phenomenal barrel racer, and she got into the barrel horse breeding. And then when she had her awesome son Michael J, he had an interest in the bull breeding, and that brought Julio into the. Didn't bring Julio, but they, because of Michael's interest in bull breeding, went on to produce some of the greatest bulls in PBR history right here in Marysville. Okies in Texas hate to hear that, but some of the best bulls that have ever been to the
Absolutely.
PBR came right here from outside that gate. Uh, so we kind of had a head start. Bronc Bainline, Chris Bird, who work for us now, they oversee, and Cindy oversee our breeding. What's really cool about our livestock when you come to our rodeo, 99.999% of the animals you see at a flying U rodeo have one brand on them. And not many people can say that. We've been very fortunate. I love Pete Carr to death. He's a dear friend of mine, but and he's starting to get his own breeding going because he's not been in this business he hasn't had the luxury of being in this business for almost 70 years. But a lot of these guys starting out with a lot of money, what's interesting is they're coming into this business thinking they can make money, and then they find out really quickly, oh shit, there's no money to be made in this. But there's a lot of guys that are very successful businessmen. Jerry Nelson, Pete Carr, Stace Smith, who have all been extremely successful outside of rodeo. And I kind of wish some days, it makes me a little jealous that I wish I had that budget to go out and buy all that stuff, but I don't. We have to raise it all, unfortunately, because as even Pete Carr and Stace Smith will tell you, there's not enough money in rodeo to go buy stock. You have to raise it unless you have other avenues of income. So, but yeah, we're very proud that we might go buy a bull or two out there. Try to buy some rideable bulls because that's pretty much all you need anymore. And then we try to raise the rank ones. So,
well, congratulations. Your livestock is. I'd put your 10 against anybody's 10. So last question for me, because I think it's an interesting one. I read that your dad kind of looked up to Gene Autry,
oh,
and
absolutely.
that he was kind of instrumental in basically getting the cowboy hat on your dad's head. Here's my question. Our current youth do they have a Gene Autry? Have we done a good job in Western lifestyle? I mean, Yellowstone's great, but you're probably not going to say to your daughter, hey, look at this character and grow up to be like her. Do we have a Gene Autry today that our kids can look up to that makes them want to wear a hat? And there may be one, but I'm just asking.
One, Cody Johnson.
Good one.
That
Good
would be
one.
my one. And there's not many after that, unfortunately.
Well, and I would say Trevor Brazil, but here's the problem.
Yeah,
You
yes,
said
yeah.
you said something earlier that people negate, and that is Stetson Wright probably maybe at the end of the day going to be one of the greatest cowboys ever to put a hat on. I mean, we'll see, but he's fantastic. He's unbelievable now. You said, well, not very many of him know him. Well, that's part of the problem of our industry is we have not done a very good job of promoting our heroes, and our heroes haven't done a good job of being promotable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, social media is helping that, and in some ways it's hurting it. But isn't it true, though, that, Trevor's fantastic, but a lot of people don't realize the quality of human and all of the great traits that Trevor has?
Absolutely. And that's one of the Wright family. I mean, I talk to Cody Wright probably once every 2 weeks, very close with him. And in Stetson, finally we have a Wright with some personality, right? I don't mean that in a mean way. Well, Jake had personality, but he's retired now. But the Wrights, I kind of what I saw at Reno the other day, and I kind of got on Stetson a little bit. At Reno, they have an autograph party, and hell, Reno pays $200 to sign autographs. And I finally went up to Stetson. I go, you must just have so much money that $200 doesn't mean anything to you. He goes, what do you mean? And I go, there wasn't one blue shirt out there. And they kind of reminded me of Ty Murray when I was a little kid. As soon as Ty and Cody got done riding, they grabbed their gear bags, they jumped over the back gate and ran out to the car because Ty at that time didn't want to deal with any of that. And I kind of see that in the Wrights a little bit, that they're just there to take your money and leave and go to the next rodeo. And I don't know if it's a social awkwardness or it's just a business mentality. They are just there to take your money, and they've been very successful at it. So I guess to go back to your question, I mean, you look at some of your fan favorites over the years, Fred Whitfield, Billy Etbauer, Cody Ohl. Why were they big names? I mean, Cody Ohl had personality, but Fred and Billy didn't. You couldn't hardly get those two to say anything. But why did the fans really relate to them? And I'll tell you why. Because you never saw them trying to win the average at the NFR. You saw them going at every damn round they could. And it wasn't their personalities that got them. It was their mentality inside the arena.
I would agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. Well, and I can tell you that all my years in the PBR, Ty Murray wrote big checks for
Oh, I know.
for fines for not signing. And I'm not talking little checks. Now he was smart enough to trade some of those out, but that didn't change in the PBR either.
Yeah,
Ty was Ty had somewhere else to go, and it wasn't along the fence.
yeah,
Now the opposite of that was Tough Hedeman, who Tough would be
yep,
out there, and we
absolutely.
would be trying to take dirt out of the arena, and Tough would be getting mad because he
Yep,
had just had an hour conversation
yep,
with one fan.
yep,
So there's a
absolutely.
lot. It's just different people and different ways that they approach the business.
Yeah. But I'm sure their sponsors and the people that brand with them would enjoy them being out there with the fans a little more. And that's kind of what I tried telling Stetson. But Stetson is so focused. He just wants to rodeo. I don't think he is comfortable with all the fan interaction. He just wants to stay so focused. I mean, that's the only thing I can come up with. So,
I
and
will
just,
say that Stetson he did spend time with a couple, Fallon,
yes.
Nevada had their first rodeo the other day,
Yep. Yep.
first PRCA rodeo, and he did go hang with a young man, football player, and a young woman athlete from Fallon that they were raising money for them. Those kids have cancer, and he did do that. I feel that is shy. That crew, there's a little bit of a shyness element to them. It
Absolutely.
seems like.
Absolutely.
uh,
Yeah, and I take that
Absolutely.
back. I guess I should have expounded on that. If you ask the rights to do anything, they will do anything you ask, but they're not going to volunteer that social interaction. But man, thank God for the rights. I don't know where the rodeo business would be without them.
Amen. The last question for me for you: do
Okay?
you love box wine because it's cheap, or because you think it tastes better?
I, boy, that's a great question. It's probably a little bit of both, and it doesn't spoil. And you can there's techniques to get every drop out of that bag. You just have to take the bag, put air in it. I taught Bob Tallman that trick, but my wife is a very, very big expense. She thinks she's a wine aficionado, but so she only drinks the high end stuff, and I'm not allowed to drink that because apparently I consume too much. So in our house, it's more affordable if I use the box version. And if there's a special occasion, she might let me have a glass of one of her bottles. So yeah.
My wife won't let me drink wine because one glass of wine, my whole family knows this. 1.5 glasses of wine and what small filter that I try to maintain in conversation absolutely goes away, and it's on, and it's not usually good. I mean, I think it's pretty entertaining for
Right.
others, but not always.
You just got
Well,
to practice. You got to practice more, build a resistance. That's all
I'm
you got to
working
do.
on it. I mean, we
All right.
get Paso wines all the time. I'm working on it. We'll have a wine off one day.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm sorry because I like to talk
That's all
forever and
right.
stuff. So I'm
That's all
sorry
right.
about that. Kendra, anything spark your attention from the random ass conversation that I had with Mr. Rosser?
I wish I liked wine because I'm surrounded by grapevines now.
You
It
are.
used to be hay fields and now it's grapevines. But no, I'm sitting here listening to, and I don't even know how far back, probably before you were born, but I'm like the Cow Palace, and I just think of, you know, the American flag coming up out of the boot, the crashing through in the opening, the flag, coming crashing through the paper, and the childhood memories of like Cy Talen's the announcer. There's a brass band.
Mhm.
With every run and every ride, the brass band starts up there, up top, and I mean, are you old enough to remember Stub
Oh,
Hill and the Saga of the
yeah.
West?
Yeah.
I mean, that was like, oh my God, I loved the Saga of the West. It was
Right.
like the greatest. But I mean, when you talk about the evolution and all the things, I mean, I can't even count how many different, openings or acts or different things that your family has brought to rodeo. I mean, things that we will actually stop and watch. And if a cowboy's, staying there for 3 or 4 days, that he'll actually watch that every day. That's when you're doing it, you know?
Well, I
It's not
can't tell you how
just,
many times I've called Reno and said, Reno, let's start in the PBR. Reno, I need your American flag.
Right.
And I always pause because I just don't. Reno, will you send me the bubble? Reno, will you this? Like he's seen me do this probably 5 or 6 times, right, in the course where I look at it and I'll tell you, Reno, it takes a long time before I text you or call you because I really, really don't want to. I don't want to admit that you did it better than me, but he knows we've called him. I
well,
mean, we brought that huge flag into the PBR finals. We brought that in when I called him was right after 9/11. And Randy Bernard made us go on the road, right? We were on doing bull ridings when everybody else thought the world was going to end. And we went to the finals, probably the best opening I've ever produced. And I called Reno and I said, I got to have your flag for this. It's got to be your flag. And this thing was a monster. I mean, this was a giant aluminum, but it worked, right? Like what we understand is the flag dropped evenly and it dropped full and it dropped natural, which you couldn't do if you just chunked it off the catwalk like everybody else did. And so I'm just saying, thank you, Reno, for the innovation. Thanks for letting me borrow some of it. Maybe someday you'll want to borrow something from me. I doubt it. But even if you don't, it's okay. But hats off to the true rodeo producer.
well, and for many, many years, the Rosser family produced the NFR openings, right?
Right?
For a long time.
Uh, uh, did Reno mute? Oh no. Oh no, we got all the way through this, and now Reno is a mute. I thought
Ah,
we made it through this without any
well,
technical
I'll say
problems.
this.
I didn't
Major
touch.
congratulations.
I
I think I
didn't
hear it.
touch anything.
He's
I,
back.
Okay,
I
that
didn't
is
touch
that
anything.
your family did produce the openings at the NFR for a lot of years, right?
Well, they did, but Kendra, I think the more important story of that is the history of how it got there. I mean, Cotton and Benny Binion were the reason why the NFR is in Las Vegas. And where would our sport be if it wasn't in Las Vegas? I mean, the Cotton used to tell me all the time, you finished the rodeo at Oklahoma City, and as soon as you got out of the rodeo, there's a snowstorm, and you might get a hot dog at a gas station. And when even after the 2 years it was there, a lot as Oak Berry will tell you, the Okies were pissed off. The Duvals were not happy that rodeo was leaving Oklahoma. And Cotton took a lot of heat, a lot of heat. And after the first 2 years, Benny Binion said, your Cowboys don't spend any money. We're not selling any tickets. I'm going to bring in a cutting. Cotton and Steve Benito rented a jet, flew to Jordan, Montana to Binion's ranch and begged him with Sean Davis and begged Benny, give us one more year, give us one more year. And just think, if he wouldn't have rented that jet for $9,000, where would rodeo be right now? I don't think it would. I'm not going to say it wouldn't be existent, but it wouldn't be where it's at. And so that's a pretty cool story. And I think that's what my dad was most proud of. And I think a lot of people forget that it took a lot of sacrifice to get this rodeo where it is in Vegas.
No, well, there's no doubt about it. And I don't think anybody's going to argue with the success of, I
Yeah.
mean, turn it and also for that town, where they used to say that it was
Oh,
like the Dust Bowl in December until the
right.
NFR, caught its gear there, and it's like nothing else. And how many thousands of people go there now that don't even have a ticket to the rodeo because it's sold out? But there's so much to do all over town. It's a good time. So
Well, and I
yeah,
mean, you think about how many people are employed during the NFR. Tommy Joe's got a job. Anthony Lucia's got a job. I mean, it used to be the NFR. The only people that had a job were the announcers and the pickup men. I bet there's probably over 300 rodeo contract personnel that have jobs in Vegas that don't even work at the NFR. And you think about the impact of that, especially in December. It's pretty amazing. And as Michael Gong said, that this rodeo is starting to get in the way of my roping. I mean, just think of the economic impact that this has brought to Las Vegas. It's amazing, and it just to our Western culture. But
and the
we've got to
economic impact it's brought to cowboys and cowgirls too, which is near and dear to
absolutely,
my heart. So absolutely
absolutely,
awesome.
yep, yep, absolutely.
Well, Reno, we just want to really thank you. We know it's a busy time. We
Yep.
know there's probably a box of wine waiting for you. We appreciate you. Look at him looking. Um, we appreciate you. I appreciate you and your family.
You bet.
And you won't hear Reno standing in front of the room, but you will hear him making brilliant comments that the people that are smart enough probably should listen to. So hats off to the
Thank
Flying
you.
U,
Appreciate
and
it.
thank you for being on our show. We appreciate you, and have a great day. And sorry about the cluster in the beginning.
No
So
problem. No problem. It happens.
cool. Hey, cool. Well, I think we've been. Do you want to finish up, Kendra, or do you want to save the rest of the stuff for the next episode?
No,
What are you thinking?
it can't wait. We got to talk about Clear
Okay,
Lake and
you're
so
welcome to stay on, Reno, and comment with us. Okay.
Okay. All right.
you do whatever you want, or cut out
Okay.
and go drink your wine. You do whatever you want. Anyway,
Good.
okay, you guys, we have to get to this. So, the 79th annual, everybody has seen this picture by now. And Greg's got it. Hopefully it can go up here. The Crystal Springs Rodeo in Clear Lake, South Dakota. Over the weekend, okay, Reno Rodeo just finished up Saturday night. Well, Clear Lake, South Dakota was supposed to finish up Saturday night also. But then the torrential rains, look at that picture. Do you see the tornado off in the distance?
Yes,
That's
Kendra, how can you miss it?
the
No,
arena.
I'm concentrating on the fact that they need to put a drain in their
Right.
arena.
Hey,
Well, there's
Because we
that.
wouldn't have
Skippy.
that problem
Hey,
at the water.
hey, Skippy. Remember, a lot of cowboys and cowgirls will be listening to this in their truck driving. This is Cowboy Christmas week, so they're not getting to see the picture that I'm talking about. So
Hey,
explaining
it's
it
got
to
a
them.
big tornado in it and
Oh my
a
God.
pool of water that horses are in.
Hey,
That's what
okay.
you get.
And this, folks, is a rodeo. It's one of those cool country rodeos where the fans sit on this grassy hillsides that are around the arena, right? So then the rains came, and it was like, it was so severe that they realized that it was unsafe for everyone involved. So I was like, I think it would be very interesting to know, okay, what the heck does this rodeo committee do? So I called Steve Knowles, the PRCA's director of rodeo administration, and said, okay, what about this scenario? And what he had to say.
Three or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So they could have canceled the performance due to the weather conditions, the safety. They could have postponed the performance as long as they needed to, up to 24 hours later. And that's about the limit on postponement. And if they would have postponed it, which they did, and they went Sunday, all the contestants that are entered that performance have the opportunity to draw out. If it's delayed more than 3 hours, you can draw out, like you were never entered, or you can stay and compete. If they would have canceled that performance, all the contestants would have been drawn out that performance, and we would have paid it off like it was two performances.
Okay, and then anybody who was up that final perf that never happened just would have gotten one official rodeo back?
They would have, and they had that option if they didn't want to hang around anyway, and if they need to go to another rodeo.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so somewhere at a recent PRCA rodeo, both rounds in one event were held on one day, and then the weather made round two impossible. In a case like that, how is the payoff handled? Do you pay like round one off like it was a one header?
We did, and I believe that was at a steer open, if I'm remembering that correctly. And it was the committee has the option to prorate the prize money in that case.
Okay.
They did not. They paid the whole. They left all the prize money in, but we did have to recalculate as a one go round with no average, and we have to refund. We charge stock charge in steer open, so we had to refund. The second and third round of stock charge in that case, but it did pay one header.
Okay, so there seem to be more and more extreme weather events these days. What's the first thing a rodeo in a weather predicament should do?
Well, I think the first thing is, make sure everybody's safe, and the local, they need to visit with the local authorities. But once they figure out what they're going to do, we have a way of contacting everybody. We can send instant messages to everybody, real time, all the contestants at one time, at least update them to where maybe they can turn around. They don't have to go. But they first and foremost, they should take care of what's going on there and make sure it's safe.
Okay, and then they can get a hold of somebody even if it's late at night or a weekend or anything like that?
Well, unfortunately, it's usually me, but I usually, if they leave a message, I'll return their call as soon as possible. Yes.
Okay.
The judges are always involved in that, and they can all get a hold of me. That's who usually calls me in a situation like that. And like Clear Lake, we just, I don't know what time it was, but it wasn't very early in the day, and we got it postponed. They were debating whether they're going to cancel it or postpone it, but they ended up just postponing it.
Okay. Well, I sure appreciate you in that position and being able to reach someone to get these answers everybody's wondering about. So thanks a lot, Knowles.
You're welcome.
All right, take care. Bye.
Well, that was cool and interesting. I will say, since we still got Reno on, and he may disagree with me, Knowles is a breath of fresh air, I think, in this game. I think he's done a very good job in his position. What say you, Reno?
Absolutely. I think he's done a wonderful job, and that's the worst job of rodeo, right? To deal with 300 calls a day from cowboys that have never read the rule book, that you have to basically read the rule book to them when they could have just opened it up themselves. It's a terrible job. And when Steve was hired, I was extremely happy but sad at the same time. We just lost arguably our best judge in rodeo. Uh, but I don't know who else you would have put in that position.
Oh, and what I most respect from Knowles, and he's done it on this podcast, he's done it with me in person. He'll say, "Yeah, we screwed up," right?
Yep. Yep.
Instead of making excuses, instead of pretending like it didn't happen, blaming it on somebody, he said, "Yeah, we'll screw up." I said, "We're going to fix it." He'll go, "We're trying. We're trying." Well,
Right.
that means something. That's real.
Yep.
That's the real world, and I appreciate that. And I think he's doing a heck of a job. Heck of a
Hell
job.
of a job.
Okay, the one thing that I had, this came up, and since we have Reno on, this is fun. We've been hearing that there's been some disappointment in some of the people watching the Cowboy Channel because they're seeing a lot of old content, and we all really, what Teton Ridge hasn't figured out yet is that we are all real people, and you need to talk to us. We need to know who you are. We need to trust you. We need to know you. And Teton Ridge buys Cowboy Channel. And so we had a lot of feedback on here, Reno. We had a lot of stuff saying, "Hey, what's going on with the Cowboy Channel? Da da da." And so then what recently came up, and Kendra shot me a text, and I'm like, "Yeah, I agree with you." She said, "What's up with 100 rodeos in 100 days? Is that happening? Da da da." So I did some research on that. And the first person that I called, and if you caught the first part of this live, you might have heard this. If you didn't, but anyway, I called Mr. James Miller. You know James.
Yep.
I mean, he's an executive now. In case you haven't talked to him, I mean,
Right.
his tie is much tighter.
Right.
You know who James is when you call him, and I
Yep.
respect you, Mr. James. But I called him, and he answered my call. He always does. He's a great guy. I'm just giving him a hard time. And I said, "Hey, what's up? Are you guys doing 100 rodeos in 100 days? Or did you abandon that, and maybe you'll let No Spin tell the fans what's going on?" And he said, "No, no, we're doing 100 rodeos. We just renamed it the Summer Run."
Summer run. Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks, James. Thank you. I understand that. Thank you. He said, "The same content." Okay. I'll report that. Now I'm going to give my personal narrative. You changed the name probably for a reason, because it's not holding you to 100 rodeos in 100 days. And so the second part of this report, and then we'll have a little conversation about this, the three of us, is I reached out to the PRCA, who is the broadcast right. So they need to know what content is going out, and they responded with this. Here's a quick overview of the rough numbers. Some interesting adjectives in here. Rough numbers for the Summer Rodeo Run. Name change. 119 PRCA rodeos are scheduled to run across linear and the Cowboy Channel. 119. 425 plus performances across linear and the Cowboy Channel. Now, you guys don't crucify me. I'm reading this. This is what I'm reading, okay? 49 live or delayed PRCA rodeos on linear. 41 PRCA QT rodeos, which I think are tour rodeos. That's what I think the QT stands for. QT rodeos, 41 PRCA QT rodeos on linear, 212 PRCA perfs on linear, 175 total events across linear and the Cowboy Channel. Now, unless we get a math wizard in here, that doesn't tell me anything. Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between linear and the Cowboy Channel?
Well, I assume that's the streaming platform. So in most sports, and we haven't done that yet here, but in most sports, and it's going to go there, predicting. So that's the streaming, and then you've got the cable channel. And what Teton Ridge is going to try to do that Patrick Gotch didn't is push all of the content on the streaming platform and create new and only special rodeos. This is only a guess. Go on the network, the cable channel, because that helps them monetize it. Now, Patrick was so driven to succeed. In fairness to him, and there were times when I thought Patrick was kooky, but in fairness to him, he put a lot of content out on both. Everything went everywhere, and the fans loved it. And in the beginning, I said, never will work. It's never going to work. Junk rodeo on is it? Well, I was wrong. Stand corrected, because there's a lot of people that want rodeo 24 hours a day. And those are the people that are now saying, what's going on? What's going on with the Cowboy Channel? I used to watch Billy Jean's backyard rodeos, mutton busting at 7:20 when I heated up my mac and cheese, and it ain't on anymore. And so my point, and I'll kick this over for conversation, the fans will know if those 100 rodeos in 100 days happens. Regardless of the numbers, those fans, they are true blue fans and want to see this. And we'll see if this is Wizard of Oz stuff. I'm not saying that it is Wizard of Oz stuff or the truth. I'm off my bucket. You guys go.
Well, I think you're 100% right, and I can't say that because I heard that, but I know before James Miller took that job, him and I were both in the agreement that of the 100 rodeos, maybe 50 of them should be on TV. I produce a few rodeos that have no business being on the Cowboy Channel. They're just hometown. I don't want to name them. I don't want to offend them. In fact, one of them's on the Cowboy Channel. But there's just some rodeos that don't belong on the Cowboy Channel. They were never meant to be televised. And you hit it on the head. Patrick was putting rodeos on the Cowboy Channel that I don't think showed well. In fact, some of them embarrassed me a little bit. And I think Teton Ridge is doing quality control on what they're putting on the channel. Now, we'll still put you on the app, but we're not going to put you on the channel. And maybe that's a fair trade. So as Kendra being a rodeo mom, she probably wants every rodeo on the Cowboy Channel so she can see what her boys are doing.
So, well, to be clear, that question about what's up about with the 100 rodeos in 100 days, it didn't come from me. It's like on every chat room on the internet,
right.
you know. And so this is not like a complaint, you know, or anything like that. It is amazing. The base, I would assume that the absolute base for the Cowboy Channel is very hardcore rodeo people, right? And
Yes.
so, you know, that's the people it's coming from. People that, I mean, that's what they do is they watch the Cowboy Channel, and when they're sleeping, they're recording what's on the Cowboy Channel and all that kind of stuff. I'm not here as a complaint. I do think it's worth mentioning that the absolute dispersal sale of Teton Ridge performance horses will be held on Monday, September 29th. That's just worthy of a mention because I mean they're the ones, you know, putting it out into the world. And you know, coincidentally, it's a day before the end of our regular season. It's a different part of their portfolio. I don't know anything more than just reading the headlines that they themselves put out, but I mean that is my strong understanding, and I think it's included in the fine print, is like even including some of the, you know, barrel horses have been or will be sold. It's just interesting. A shuffling of the deck, maybe a refocus or whatever.
Well, and I'll
Worth
tell
it.
you what else is going to happen. If someone that owns the Cowboy Channel is going to survive and make money, okay, they have to realign everything Patrick did. They have to package and sell programming and sponsorships on the network. They can't just pass through the rodeo sponsors. Now, that was started because it was way cheaper to take a feed from the rodeo, right? And put it on. All that costs is an internet line. But all the rodeo sponsors got on there. Well, what you're going to see, rodeo committees, is that if they keep progressing in the direction that most sports go, Teton Ridge is slowly going to peel back, right, the right to sell sponsorships during the rodeos that they're broadcasting, and they could be in conflict with yours. And all of a sudden, Bill's Furniture Store that has the replay for the saddle bronc riding isn't going to show up anymore someday, because they have to do it, because they have to financially make this thing work. And God rest his soul and the great job that Patrick did to build what he built. It was not financially sound, and it's got to get that way.
I agree.
Well,
And
yeah.
to Kendra, to your point, I talked to some people at Teton Ridge, and the horse sale, I shared the same concern that, well, he's dropping the horses, so that might be the smartest thing he ever did. Besides Trevor Brazil, I don't know anybody who's made money selling rope horses.
Well, these aren't rope horses, right? Most of them.
No, I know,
Right.
but still,
Fancy horses for sure.
yes, very nice horses, but not even related. And my sources tell me Teton Ridge is full steam ahead. They just did their rodeo live at the Reno Rodeo and spared no expense with their setup, and did a phenomenal job. I'm with Tommy. I think we're gonna start to lose the local sponsors, and I saw that coming from a long time ago, and I'm surprised that it's not already happening. And I think it already is, as Greg will tell you. They'll go to commercial break when you're trying to play commercials at rodeo, and we knew that was coming.
Well,
Well,
and
go ahead.
Go ahead, Kendra.
No, there's a whole, I mean, there's such a deep conversation that we don't have time for, but for people who don't really understand it, it's like, national sponsors, there are certain sponsors that the PRCA has that are like first right of refusal. There are very, very rarely is there an exclusive sponsor. So a lot of rodeos, to make ends meet, do sell local sponsorships. But when it all comes down to the everybody doing their books, these are the sort of things, and most people would consider in the weeds, that's part of the reality for what makes the wheel go round at all these rodeos across the country.
I agree.
And at Teton Ridge, for that matter, right? So everybody's trying to balance their own books.
Yeah.
Well, and I was standing. Go ahead, Greg. You go, then I'll finish this. This is another random. Go ahead.
So a couple things I wanted to say. Some of the guys that I talked to at the Cowboy Channel are saying that they're going to do kind of like golf productions where they're going to bounce around between rodeos. They're going to be, in Oakley where there was a really nice bareback ride, and then they might go somewhere else, Livingston for a bull ride. So it's going to be kind of a random production as they go through. So a lot of these rodeos that aren't on the Cowboy Channel directly will be, they'll have a couple rides show and stuff like that. And then I wonder if at some point there'll be, like hockey or baseball, where they kind of take over the in arena signage with putting their own signage in there.
Oh, they can sure do that. But the problem is they don't want to pay for it. They're already trying to do that. And I tell them, no,
but I'm saying like they do in baseball, or baseball or hockey.
Well, they get paid in
what
baseball,
you see on TV, you don't see any of the local, unless they have a camera that's not set up right. They have their own. They put their own sponsorship on all the arena dasher signs. With it's all computer controlled, but I mean, it'd be something that they could do internally at the Cowboy Channel. Yeah.
Well, the random thing I was going to say is I was in a meeting at the Teton Ridge Ranch when they were building it in Peaster, Texas. An amazing place. I was there for some meetings. And the ranch manager was like, well, here comes the pipe. And I bet it was 20 something loads of pipe for pipe fence, 20 semi loads of pipe. And those of you that have ever, well, even this was 3, 4, 5 years ago, maybe. But I mean, the amount, and they were running fiber across the entire property. So my point is the amount of money that was spent just on fence and fiber for that ranch would intimidate a pretty wealthy person. So they spent a lot of money on that, so let's hope that with the dispersal sale, I don't know if the ranch is going with it, but let's hope they can recoup some of their money and put it into rodeo media, which is great because they can probably make money in rodeo media. There's not a whole lot of people that make money in the horse business.
Right.
Cool beans. Well, we're going to go around the table. Final thing. Reno, we might ask you to come on more often, especially when we're talking shop, because I'd love to have someone that leans my way. Because but we'll just do final around the table on today. We'll end with Kendra. We'll start with you, Greg. Something that you thought was cool or something you wanted to say that you didn't say, and then we'll go to Reno, me, and end with Kendra. On your mark, get set, go.
Well, I think it was very interesting to have Reno on. He's got he puts on a great show. There were some comments on Facebook or YouTube about how they love the motorcycles that you guys put on at the end of the show. I think it's great. So I really enjoy working with you, Reno, and I wish we did more rodeos together. But thank you for what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Greg. Back to your comment a minute ago. The reason why we're not seeing a lot of these rodeos on the Cowboy channels, again, Teton Ridge is trying to make this financially stable, correct? And we agree.
Oh no, he coughed and now we don't hear him. Let Greg work on it. Evidently, if you have a flatulence or cough, it kicks the mic off. It says you're muted, Reno. It does say you're muted, Reno. There. No, you muted again. I can see the microphone. It's got a slash through it, Reno. Hit it again.
There you go.
It. Can we hear him?
Talk.
Well, speak, Reno, so we can tell if we can hear you. Oh yeah, we got nothing.
Yeah.
Oh well.
He is muted. Anyway.
Well, yeah. Anyway, my final deal is, little things. I'll give you an example. You put a sombrero hat on a remote control car, and you send it in the arena. Genius. Okay, just flat genius stuff. That's all I'll say.
Carlos.
I mean, you build a brand out of that. It has its own identity. And I watch it, and while it's controlled to reflect its personality. Like, these are things that just inherently come with some of us that see the world in a different color than others and see the rodeo business in a different color. So hats off. Sorry that Reno's permanently muted. Kendra, take us off air with something brilliant.
Brilliant, whatever. I would just say to the Rosser family, like, huge congratulations for being an iconic family and force in our sport. And Reno speaks of, his wife's an attorney. I've always said this since I was very young in my career about Cotton Rosser and Harry Vold. They were like ahead of their time in the rodeo business of bringing in smart, capable women, where a lot of people were like, oh yeah, hey, little lady, step aside or whatever. Cotton Rosser and Harry Vold were like, oh yeah, you're the best person for this. Will you do this for me or whatever it is? And like, total respect. And it was appreciated as a young kid, coming up in this man's world of rodeo. And really pretty cool. And it served them very well. So obviously Reno follows in that, as do Lee and Brian. And I think it's pretty pretty great. But congratulations on epic success, and just thank you from all of us. The Rossers have been a friend to my family and the rodeo family for forever and always will be. So thank you is my main message. Thanks.
Well, we still we can't hear Reno, so I'm going to go off air with, um, pretend like I'm Reno. Well, thanks for having me. All I want to say is, all of you idiots out there, pull your heads out of your butts, start paying attention. Let's keep making this rodeo business better. I'm Reno Rosser. On behalf of No Spin Rodeo, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us.